Houston is a city that is floating in a swamp. If you've ever spent more than 5 minutes in the Bayou City, you know that it's dominated by a slow-moving, complex network of over 2,500 miles of waterways. These bayous are the lifeblood of the city's drainage system, designed to handle the massive tropical storms that are a huge part of Gulf Coast life. But over the past decade, the bayous have become a place where dead bodies are being found. With nearly 200 bodies recovered since 2017, the city's caught in a tug of war between official explanations and viral social media driven panic that a serial killer is stalking the banks. This is a mystery. It's the frequency, the demographic profiles, and in a high number of cases where the medical examiner just can't tell us how a person died. It's an urban tragedy that's been amplified by the digital age and a physical environment that seems that it's supposed to swallow people whole. This is the story of the Houston Bayou Bodies. Let's get spooky. Hey, spooky people, it's your best friend Kenny, and we are back with another disturbing story. Before we get to today's story, make sure that you like and share this video and leave a comment for the algorithm. Thank you. Numbers are a huge part of mysteries. If the numbers are normal, there's no mystery. But in Houston, the math has started to feel off to the people living there. Between January 2017 and the end of 2025, Harris County authorities recovered approximately 200 bodies from local waterways. That's a high number for any city, but there is a recent concern about the acceleration. In 2021, the city found 16 bodies in waterways. By 2022, it was 20. In 2023, it was 22. But then 2024 and 2025 hit. Both years saw a peak of roughly 35 bodies each. That's finding a body in water once every 10 days. That sounds to me like something more than just an accident. And the demographic of these bodies tell a story. About 85% of those have been men. They range from teenagers as young as 14 to elderly men in their 80s. But there is a cluster of people in the 30 to 39 age bracket. Clusters are a big part of this story. For example, in September 2025, there were 5 bodies found in a single week. It's the type of thing where you start going, the math just isn't making sense here. This mystery isn't spread evenly across Houston. It's concentrated in the urban core and the industrial east side. The highest density of recoveries have been in downtown Houston around the area of Buffalo Bayou Park. The biggest fuel for the conspiracy fire is the medical examiner's ruling. In a normal situation, an autopsy tells you exactly what happened. In the Houston bayous, that's rarely the case. Since 2017, about 40% of all bayou deaths have been ruled undetermined. When the manner of death is undetermined, it means that the forensic pathologist couldn't find enough evidence to say whether it was an accident, a homicide, or something else. In Houston, the environment is a problem for people investigating. The heat and humidity are oppressive, and the bayou water is full of silt, pollutants, and marine life. Within hours of entering the water, a body begins to decompose at an accelerated rate. By the time a body is recovered, which could take days, toxicology reports might be skewed, and soft tissue injuries that would indicate strangulation or a struggle are often not detectable. The undetermined status is a conflict point between the public and the police. For a grieving family, undetermined feels like uninvestigated. For the police, it's just a reality. For the internet and social media, people think it's a cover-up. There has been real human cost and some real specific weirdness in these cases. For example, Kenneth Cutting Jr. was 22 years old when he went out with roommates to Pete's Dueling Piano Bar in June 2024. According to his roommates, Kenneth had some kind of mental break in the car on the way home and demanded to be let out on the side of the expressway. 3 days later, his body was found in Buffalo Bayou, more than a mile away. The case is a flashpoint for public anger for 2 reasons. First, Kenneth was a swimmer. His father, Kenneth Cutting Sr., has rejected the idea that his son would just fall in and drown. Second, the autopsy report was a mess. It had a lot of errors that the family felt was a slap in the face. The report mentioned medical hardware in Kenneth's neck, but he'd never had surgery. It also listed him as being 4'8" and 89 pounds when he was actually 5'4" and 125 pounds. The medical examiner's office later admitted that they accidentally pasted information from a completely different body into Kenneth's report. And while they claimed this didn't change the undetermined ruling, it led the family to accuse the city of gaslighting the public. If they couldn't get the height and weight right, how are we to trust them on the cause of death? In September 2025, Jade McKisick, a University of Houston student and a tour guide went missing. Her body was found days later in Bayous Bayou, right near the campus. Jade was 20 years old. She was a high-profile student with a bright future. Her death sent the University of Houston campus and city into a tailspin of fear. Authorities said there was no obvious signs of foul play, but they didn't have an immediate cause of death either. For the students mourning her death, no signs of foul play felt like a canned response. Why would a happy, healthy college junior end up in a muddy bayou just blocks from her dorm? Anthony Curry was found in Bayous Bayou. He was 35 years old, and it highlights the role of substance abuse in these drownings. His death was ruled an accidental drowning with toxic effects of PCP and ethanol. For the police, this was a clear-cut case of an impaired person falling into the water. But his sister, Alexis, has continued to push for answers, pointing out that her brother wasn't homeless, and the circumstances of how he ended up in that specific stretch of water remain a mystery to the family. When the official story is it's just a bunch of accidents, but the body count keeps rising, people start to look for other explanations. And the biggest theory is that there is an active serial killer. The serial killer theory dominates TikTok and Reddit, and the theory is pretty simple. Houston has a serial killer who preys on people near the bars and parks and dumps them in the water. It's similar to the Smiley Face Killer theory, which is an idea that there is a network of killers targeting young men and leaving smiley face graffiti near the water. Smiley Face Killer theory proponent, retired New York Police Department Sergeant Kevin Gannon, has looked into these Houston cases, and he feels they mostly fit the pattern. But he has noted that there is an aberration because some of the Houston victims are in their 60s. Gannon justifies this aberration by saying that maybe the killers are feeling invincible and expanding their target list because the police aren't connecting the dots. The Houston Police Department says the serial killer narrative is mostly a product of our true crime obsession. Police have pointed out that serial killers usually have a signature or a specific victim type. In Houston, the victims are men and women, black, white, Hispanic, ranging from 14 to 81 years old, and they die from everything from drowning to heart attacks to gunshots. People who believe the serial killer theory say that the statistical anomalies cannot be ignored. They say Houston officials want them to believe that the recovery of 35 bodies from bayous in 2024 and 2025, which are records, is a tragic coincidence. But they look at historical baselines, and before this recent surge, recoveries of bodies had hovered between 12 and 20. This is a 100% increase that has sustained itself over 2 consecutive years. They also point to the clustering of these discoveries, that 5 bodies were found in a single 5-day span in September 2025. That clustering makes it seem not random, that it's a pattern, and someone must be behind the pattern. They also point to the undetermined deaths, and they say that that's a forensic black hole. It means that the water has done the killer's job for them, washing away DNA, degrading soft tissue, and that a serial killer operating in the bayous would know that this water is a good accomplice for getting rid of forensic evidence. They say that this proves that this predator has mastered the art of a perfect traceless crime. A specific targeted demographic has emerged. Black men have accounted for nearly half of the recoveries in the last year. And many of these men were in their 30s and 40s, people who were able-bodied and unlikely to simply slip down and die without a struggle. That the killer is targeting marginalized groups because they're dismissed as high risk due to transient lifestyles. So the killer can operate in the blind spots of society. And it's a good point, because victims are often chosen specifically because of how easy their deaths are to explain away. Another theory is the concrete trap infrastructure theory. This is a boring but likely most accurate theory. Many of Houston's bayous have been poured with concrete to help move the water faster. The sides of these bayous are incredibly steep and made of smooth concrete. If you fall in, it's almost impossible to get out, especially if it's raining outside or someone's intoxicated. The concrete is slick with algae, and the current is faster than it looks. And there are no ladders or ropes and very little lighting. Former city council member Letitia Plummer has been vocal about this, arguing that the bayou can look beautiful on a sunny day, but it becomes a death trap the second the weather turns or the sun goes down. Another theory is the homelessness and addiction crisis. A huge percentage of the bodies found in the bayou are believed to be from the unhoused population. Many of Houston's homeless encampments are tucked away along the bayou's banks because they provide a place to hide from the police and public view. Living that close to water is dangerous. If a person overdoses, they might roll into the water. If they die of natural causes in the sleep, they might be washed into the bayou by rain. District Attorney Sean Terr has been very clear about this. We have a massive homeless problem, mental health and addiction problem. All of these things are contributing to a lot of the bodies that we are discovering. But Houston's paranoia is understandable when you realize that this is the city where Dean Corll, the Candyman, murdered at least 28 young boys. For years, the Houston Police Department told the families of those boys that they were just runaways. The police actively ignored the disappearances until Corll was shot by one of his accomplices and the mass graves were discovered in a boat shed. That story is a huge part of the city. When the mayor says drowning in our bayous is not a new phenomenon, older people from Houston here, they're just runaways. The historical trauma is why a clerical error in Kenneth Cutting Jr.'s autopsy, it's seen as a sign that the police are still dismissing the wrong kind of victims. The water's edge in Houston is a messy, dangerous environment. There's silt and sand, almost like quicksand, very fine sediment. People on Reddit have shared stories of getting stuck in knee-deep mud that acts like quicksand, requiring people to be literally dragged out by their friends. And because Houston is so flat, the water has nowhere to go but the bayou. During your typical afternoon thunderstorm, the water level in Buffalo Bayou can rise 5 to 10 feet in less than an hour. The water is full of fish, turtles, and even alligators. These animals, combined with the bacteria in the water, can cause significant damage to a body within 24 hours, which is a major reason why medical examiners have to rule so many cases as undetermined. Is there a serial killer in Houston? The police say no, the district attorney says no, and criminal justice professors say no. If you look at the data, they're probably right. There's no consistent signature. The demographic is too wide, and the causes of death are too varied. But just because there isn't one rabid serial killer on the loose doesn't mean there isn't a mystery. The mystery is why a city of 7 million people has such a massive failure in its social and physical infrastructure that 35 people a year are stumbling to a muddy grave. The mystery is likely a result of a massive unhoused crisis that pushes vulnerable people to live on the edge of these dangerous waterways, and a flood-controlled infrastructure that prioritizes moving water quickly over human safety, as well as a forensic backlog and a harsh environment that leaves nearly half the deaths without a clear explanation, fueling public disgust and conspiracy theories, and the digital culture that is thirsty for a true crime narrative, turning every recovery into a viral event. The bayous are a source of fear, and rightfully so. For the people of Houston, the mystery is a recurring nightmare that plays out in the muddy water, one body at a time. Whether it's an accident or something more sinister, the result is the same: another family left without answers and another undetermined death file in the Harris County Archives. Make sure that you're subscribed to this channel, The Spooky Lawyer. Make sure that you like, share this video, and leave a comment for the algorithm. Follow me on Blue Sky, Twitter, and TikTok. My username is The Spooky Lawyer. If there is a spooky or disturbing story you'd like me to cover, leave a comment and tell me about it, or send me an email. My email address is thespookylawyer@gmail.com. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a link in the description of this video to buy me a coffee, so you can buy me a coffee. Or you can become a member of the channel. For the $1.99 tier, you can get access to exclusive content, including exclusive videos, as well as early access to my videos before they go public. I appreciate you considering this. You can also support me by continuing to watch, share, and comment on my videos. And I do really appreciate you watching my videos. And please stay spooky.